Most agents are working harder than ever, chasing leads, boosting posts, buying ads, and still feeling unstable. But what if the problem isn't your effort? You're fishing harder than anyone else, but what if the problem is where you're fishing? Today I'm joined by Justin Stoddart, CEO and co-founder of Pro Insight, former top 1% title producer, luxury home builder, author of the international best-selling book, The Upstream Model, and the voice behind the Think Bigger Real Estate podcast. Justin teaches agents how to stop competing downstream for consumers and instead build strategic referral relationships upstream with the professionals who already influence your ideal clients. If you've ever wondered whether there's a more stable, referral-driven way to go, this episode is going to challenge how you think about lead generation. So Justin, man, I am so glad that you're here, brother. It's an honor to have you with me. Man, go ahead and do a quick introduction.
Well, you did a great job talking about business. So let me begin
thanks.
by sharing something maybe that's more meaningful to me. I know your audience is very much followers of Jesus Christ. And I'll say at the core of who I am, I believe in Jesus Christ, and I aspire every day to be a disciple of his, one that can make him proud, and truly one that he would say that I'm a friend of his. So that's at the core of who I am, and I'm grateful to be able to testify to your audience that he lives, and he truly is the Son of God.
100%.
And with that as our family's foundation, my wife and I are ambitious or crazy enough, depends on the day you ask us, to have 6 children. And it's an absolute joy. We believe very strongly that is, the design of God is to give us joy and opportunity to grow through families. And we've got, like I said, my oldest is in college, freshman year at college. My youngest is a second grader. So we have 6 kids across 5 different schools, which is wild. And it's a busy time of life, but we're grateful for it. We love it. And all of that is probably inspiration to do what you described, which is to help not just my family, but other families to find a more maybe intelligent and effective way to have a referral-based business, to really take control of their market in a way that's relationship-based. I think maybe some on this in this audience, if you're a real estate agent and or from another industry, are maybe tired of those who are willing to pay for the business being the predominant players in a community. And many times, not speaking about all of them, but many times those are 3-star professionals. And they actually can't build a business by referral because they care far more about the transaction than the people behind it. They don't see those people as a stewardship, as you described, which I love that. And so they have to pay for the business. And all the while, right, they're getting more and more of the business. And so what I believe very strongly is to give the power back to those who are truly the 5-star professionals who can and do build a business by referral, and giving them more technology tools and more strategy and models to be able to expand their referral-based business versus kind of at times feeling like that they get the crumbs, right? After kind of the big lead platforms take, kind of their unfair share. So
Man, it's so good. But I love that you talked about that because, even talking about the 6 kids, they know we have 5. Man, I know it's going to be too late, but everybody, we're taking all 5 kids. We're driving 12 hours tomorrow to Orlando. Please, you can't back pray for us. That wouldn't work, but, whatever. Hopefully I'm still alive when we get back, and we'll figure that out. We're excited, and we'll see what the Lord wants to do with that. But, man, I find that so many, exactly what you talked about, so many people who are parents, right? The balance is such an important thing. And so they tend towards referrals because the cold calling and all of those pieces, it requires immediacy in response, right? It requires 3 hours a day on the phone. It requires whatever, open houses on the weekend, whatever the scenario is, versus referrals feel like they can give you and grant you the best kind of work-life balance that you maybe could have. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if you're in a lead-based prospecting business, that, the answer, because there's not loyalty, they're not coming from a relationship and they don't have a relationship with you. They're simply looking for somebody to open a door, write a contract. And it's speed to lead becomes the name of the game. How fast can I get back to people? How fast can I drop whatever other plans I had, even if it's dinner with my family, to go rush and open that door? Because if I don't, they're moving on to the next person. Whereas if you have a business that's built on trust and trusted relationships, and you're serving people where that's their highest priority, is that they can trust the person across from them, then you don't have to run a business that is completely maybe foreign to also having a strong spiritual and family life. You can say, hey, I don't work on Sundays, or hey, this evening I've dedicated to my family. Let's meet on this night, right? And people will respect that. In fact, they'll respect you more. And so I think for those that actually want to have a business that's sustainable, that doesn't cause them to want to get out quickly because they've burnt out and or maybe even burnt bridges in areas far more important than real estate, then I think the answer is to have a business that's built on trust and trusted relationships. So a referral-based business obviously is at the core of that.
Yeah, for sure. And I talk all the time. Yeah, I agree with you, 100%, right? We agree on all of this. But, instead of being the agent urgent care where the only value is we're open when you need us, right? Like be the surgeon, which is when are you available? A month and a half from now? Fine, I'll take it. Now, I'm not saying it should be a month and a half before we can meet somebody, right? But like there is a complete difference in how those two, both in the medical profession, how they are treated by the consumer. And so we need to stop being that agent urgent care, right? So now in your book, you talk about downstream versus upstream, right? That most agents fish downstream, which you say is competing for consumers directly, online leads, ads, cold outreach. And instead you talk about going upstream. So building relationships with professionals who already serve our ideal clients before they're even ready to, buy or sell a home. So break down for me, what is the upstream model? What does that mean?
Yeah, great. I mean, you did a great synopsis there, and I'll expound upon that, which is right now in your community, there are professionals who are meeting with homeowners, and they're not competitive to you. They're complementary to you. They're in a different industry, and they're identifying that these people are going to be making a real estate move in the next weeks, months, and they are not introducing those people to you, and they could be. And by simply making that slight adjustment of having, and what many have called over the years as a center of influence business, I think we're all very familiar with a sphere of influence business, right? Where we have a business that comes out of referrals based on people who we've served, like the direct consumer relationship, which we ought to have. And as I mentioned before, that might be the litmus test that you truly are relational, is that people continue to come back to you and refer you. But a way to scale and advance that to where, again, you're taking more control of the market is to build a center of influence business or an upstream business, whereas you have partners who are situated upstream from the real estate transaction, and you are identifying and these relationships, you're adding value to that center of influence, and they are in turn introducing you to clients just before they need you. Now, the beautiful thing about that is that they're doing all the nurturing, right? A sphere of influence business, which is great. Trust me, that should be the foundation of what all of us have. But you're doing all the nurturing because there's transactions right now anywhere between, 10 years, sometimes 12, 15 years, depending upon what's happening in the market, right, on average. And again, depending upon your kind of the demographics of your database may look different. But nevertheless, that's a long time to nurture somebody until they're going to need you again. Now, of course, we're hoping to get referrals, right, sporadically throughout there. But a way to really, again, scale a warm market business, because you can't do that with that many people. There's just not enough time in the day, and or you're giving up time with those people you love the most in order to make that possible. And so the alternative is that there are other professionals out there who right now are nurturing clients because they're serving them in an ongoing manner, right? Whether it be a financial advisor, a tax professional, insurance agent, etc. Those professionals have that relationship. They're already nurturing those people on your behalf. And if you add the right value to that professional, they will alert you when you're needed, right? To where you're not having to be all things to all people 24 hours a day, like you're saying, but you can be very valuable to the professional, and they in then turn will transfer the trust that they've earned over years to you. And in an instant, that client looks to you as the only person that they're going to be talking to because someone who they highly trust recommended it, right? So that's how now all of a sudden, instead of only having time to wrap your arms around one database, you can literally have 10 or dozen or dozens of databases that are being nurtured, but not necessarily by you, right? So now you just have a handful of people who you're taking care of, who are bringing you up right at the moment that their clients need you.
So are you, okay, so in my head, right, because I do only think from the sphere side, that's all that I've ever done, right? I think of, you've got this financial advisor, and in my world, it's like, well, they're just in my database. They just happen to talk to way more potential buyers and sellers than my friend from church ever would. Yeah. And so now they're just going to give me this opportunity in a much greater way. Is the concept from your mind, is it we have our sphere database, if you will, the people we know that know, like, and trust us. And then we also have these, these business owner databases where it's not, I think of immediately this concept of BNI, right? Now, I've never been part of one, but it's like, oh, go to BNI and then just refer who's there. I don't know. I've never done it, right? I have friends that have. I'm not trying to bash it, but it's like, I don't know. I don't want to refer someone just because they're in my group. That doesn't seem to make sense. You're talking about identifying who these people are in our local markets who would have an outsized influence, right? They're the financial advisor, the whomever, and I want some ideas that are talking to clients. And you're saying by nurturing them, and they're nurturing all these other people, it's just, obviously Jesus had the 12 and he had the 3 and then he had the 12 and then he had all those disciples. The concept of go small with this group of people, they're going large with that group of people, and through it, you're actually influencing and reaching everyone. Is that essentially the concept that you're talking about?
Yeah, that's very well said. And I think the BNI model is a good one. Here's what we found with a lot of people who have been a part of BNI. Is that it's amazing when you're getting your business off the ground, right? And it's true for everybody in that room. Now, there are some chapters that defy this, and they really have kind of a kind of top tier professional throughout. But the reality is, in most of those, especially if you're the one that's trying to launch one, is that it's many business owners who are just getting started. So they don't have big databases, right? And the challenge with that is that there's a lot of time that's poured into the maintenance and the building of a chapter like that, right? There's weekly 90-minute meetings, plus the travel time to and from, plus you get people in that group who say, hey, I want to do a one-to-one with you. Now, I know this because I've been a part of BNI chapters, right? And oftentimes the people who want to meet with you aren't necessarily going to be great referral partners not because they're bad people, because their business isn't really a mature business, and or because they're just nowhere situated in the transaction line of homeowners, right? It could be like a chiropractor, and maybe at some point they could, but to pour a lot of time into that person. Plus you tack on, that there's, as soon as you become kind of a standout member, everybody wants you to play leadership roles, and it goes on and on and on, right? And pretty soon you're building BNI's business versus your own. And so, what we've found is that you can actually put that together. In fact, we built, not to be a promo for what we built, but we listened to all of the people who had left a BNI chapter to say that it was great until I got too busy, I couldn't do it. And the return on time wasn't strong enough. And that's where most successful people, like really successful people, they're more interested in time than money at this point. The money's taking care of itself. It's the return on time. And so we built something that has technology and even AI tools that allow you to learn about the professionals and their client base without you having to spend 90 minutes a week to get that information. And it makes referrals start to flow without you having to spend all that time. It increases the return on time, essentially. So yeah, it's a great way to kind of frame that, is it's kind of like that, but it shouldn't be just everyone who has a business, because the reality is not everybody who has a business is going to be is going to be upstream from you, right? They're not going to be having conversations day in and day out with homeowners, right? About whether that be their estate, their finances, and or their home itself, right? Like it would be kind of a random conversation to start talking about a home when you're talking to like a chiropractor, right? Or a dentist, right? It could come up, but it's not what they're already talking about. True upstream partners are those who are already talking about people, about their home, or the financing of the home, and or the insurance of the home, and or the overall financial plan that involves the home, to where it's very natural for them to bring up the home, right? Because it's part of what they're talking about anyway. It's part of their of kind of what they serve. So that's how I would define a true upstream partner, is that they're talking to homeowners relative to the home all day, every day, and they serve them in a very relational way, in the sense that they have the trust of that person and the ear of that person, to where they could make an introduction and that person would stop all of their searches and they would talk to that person first to see if it's the right fit.
Yeah, it's good. And I want you to talk about Pro Insight right here in a minute, because I do want you to tell us what you guys are up to. The question in my head comes up, right, is so I'm thinking about who's upstream from me. Now, my assumption is if they're a brand new first-time buyer, it's probably a friend and then a real estate agent, I assume. Maybe a mortgage lender, maybe a financial advisor. I don't know that it'd be beyond that. I'm thinking of if it's a repeat buyer, and you tell me, right, you know better than me, but if it's a repeat buyer, then or seller, whatever, then yeah, financial advisor, CPA, insurance, because they already have homeowners insurance. Maybe they're asking some questions about how that works. Maybe an old mortgage lender partner. Who knows who it could be, right? But who have you found, maybe an attorney, who have you found that are like, if someone listening is like, hey, I want to actually implement this, who are the people that I go talk to first? Like, what's that list? Is it contractors? Who is it that I should have a relationship? Because, the irony of what you're talking about is we are the upstream for so many other industries, totally. Right? And so they look at us just today, my brother who runs a nonprofit, he said, hey, I just met an awesome roofer who's a believer and he'd love to connect with you. Like, of course he would. I mean, I'm going to, right? Because he's a brother in Christ and my actual brother asked me to. But why? Because I'm upstream to him. I can give him business. Now, is he ever going to give me business? Probably not. I have no idea. So who should we be targeting? Justin, if an agent wants to implement this, like what do they do? What's step one?
Great question, Garrett. And I think step one is to identify, of all the clients that you've served over the past year, which ones did you feel that, number one, it was an ideal client from multiple standpoints. Number one, like it was good for the pocketbook, right? Like that actually has to be a business case because we're not running nonprofits, right? Like they actually were a transaction that took place, like a family you were actually able to serve. But number two, which is just as if not more important, is that it aligned with your mission. In other words, if you love serving people who are maybe in their final home and they're preparing to go to more of a retirement home, and that's your demographic, and you feel connected to those people, like God's given you a charge to serve that demographic, then hone in there. If it's, I had actually a coaching client at one point, she said, I want to work with divorce attorneys. And I said, tell me more about that. Because I hear some of the people saying like, oh yeah, it's one sale and two purchases. And I'm kind of like, yuck, right? Yeah, and it's like, I get that that's like the reality, but there's also a lot of challenges with that, right? Because you're dealing with people who, a family's divided, which is never very fun. Well, she said, no, you understand, I've been through a divorce. And what I realized for me, is that I wish somebody could have gone back and told me that this is the end of the chapter, not the end of the book. Life's going to get better from here on out. And she said, if someone could have told me that would have been such an easier chapter for me, right? So now I get to tell people that. So as I'm serving them, I get to minister to them in that way and let them know that it's going to be fine, right? And so for her, it's very much mission-based and also an actual good business decision. And so I think we have to look at what life events do we typically enjoy being involved in with those two criteria that I just described, right? And once you find that, then simply ask yourself, who were the other professionals that were involved serving that client during that life phase? Was it they got their first job and there was a headhunter involved, right? That helped them get that job? Was it, somebody who is having their first child, or someone who just became an empty nester and now they're relocating? Like, who are the people that you can speak to them and serve them? Be kind of God's hands to those people. When you come at it from that angle, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I got it. I really love serving these people, right? And what we tend to do is we tend to say, well, I can serve anybody that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. Of course we can. We get that, right? We're not turning down other opportunities, but we're saying, if I could choose one life event and serve those people all day long, it wouldn't even feel like work. It would feel like I was on a mission, right? To serve God's children in a specific way. When you look at it from that angle, now you can probably start to piece together one or two different life events that really light you up. And then ask yourself, who are the other professionals that they're going to need? There's a good chance that you've probably collaborated with them, like even lightly. And if not, you can start to ask yourself, well, after they left my care or before they got to me, who was working with them? Who else was involved? And those become upstream partners, right? And the more that you start to put around you a team of people who serve that same person, the more likely you're going to get opportunities from them. And the more compelling of an offer you're going to have for those people. Because now you have a whole team of people that have worked together that can serve them at such a high level because that's what you do. So I would start with that of like, who do I really love to serve that lights me up inside to serve? And then begin to identify the professionals around. Because it could be estate attorneys, right? It could be divorce attorneys. It could be tax professionals. It could be insurance. It could be, like I said, someone that specializes in relocation. There's any number of them, but it's about finding the right life event, the right professionals around them, and then kind of working into that circle from there.
That's really good. It's such a reminder too of like the definition of the avatar. Who are we actually trying to serve? Who does the Lord called us to serve? You know, I don't mean to go back to the surgeon and the urgent care, but like the surgeon is, my dad has to get hand surgery again. He is a hand surgeon, right? Like, I'm sure he's smart enough to do some other stuff, but he does hand surgery. I've never seen his office be anything but crazy busy, right? Like, he's very good at hand surgery, and so people come. Yeah. And so it is this idea of people need to understand who you're for, because if they don't understand who you're for, then they also don't know who you're not for, and now they just get confused. Like, I don't know if this person's for me or not, right? Yeah. But if it's, I serve young moms who have 2 kids and they homeschool and, they're buying their second home. I mean, don't go that specific, right? But like, then if I read that, I'm like, well, that's not for me. And that's okay. But if someone else read it, they're like, oh, that's clearly for me. And then you're saying, once we figure that out, then it's who would all be involved in that scenario, right? Is it the neighborhood babysitting company? That doesn't exist. But you know what I mean? Like, understanding who the professionals are around them, right? Yeah. That would be involved in this avatar's life. So I love that concept, right? I love that concept. What do you think separates the agents that actually build this, right, and build real alliances with these people versus the ones who never get anything off the ground?
I'll share that through the context of a book that was introduced to me called Give and Take. And the concept of the book, Give and Take, is that there are 3 types of people, very broad generalization, right? There are takers, those who show up to say, what can I get from this relationship? There are givers who show up to say, what can I give to this relationship? And there are traders, right? People who say, I'm going to give at the level that I get and, not anymore, not any less. And I think we, like most people, are kind of in that 60% in the middle, and the fringes are givers and takers. The interesting thing about this concept is that the most and least successful people in the world are givers. Isn't that interesting? You would think that most successful are givers. They are, and the least successful. And here's the difference, is that the successful givers recognize when they're around a taker and they move their energy to go find and give to other givers. Because it always comes back. But think about somebody who just gives to takers, they just get run over. They get taken for everything that they have, right? And they don't identify that this person, that this is not, again, it's not being a trader, it's just being wise about to whom you're giving. You're not expecting anything in return, but you just recognize that when someone's there only to get, that this isn't going to end well, right, for either party. And so I answer that because people who really develop this, they start to identify personality types and character types to identify people who are genuinely there to give, people who genuinely want to not just give a referral in return, right? But they're looking to actually offer their clients more than what they get paid for, right? In other words, a taker would come in and say, I wonder how high I can charge this client without having any sort of like retribution, right? A trader says, I want to be sure and give a fair price, and that's it, right? Whereas a giver comes in and says, hey, I'm going to treat you fairly, and who else do you need? And I get nothing for it, but who else are you looking for, right? Those types of people make great people for you to surround yourself with. So it's kind of looking for those personality/character types to surround yourself with givers, people who are genuinely open to giving their clients more than what they get paid for. And as you start to find those people that also align with what your ideal demographic actually needs, now you're starting to really move, right? Now you're in a position where you've got the right demographic and you've got the right kind of character makeup.
That's good, man. Super good. So shifting to a little bit of the faith focus, right? And you mentioned this earlier, but we need to be thinking in terms of stewardship, right? And referrals for us are stewardship. It's in my opinion, the best way to do business, but also it's this stewardship of trust. So how does having character, having faith, how does that factor into Upstream success?
Yeah, I think at the very core, in fact, I heard a question answered recently to a spiritual leader that I really admire. Someone asked him, what side of the political spectrum are you on? And he said, I'm of course I have my political beliefs, but he said, I'm not going to necessarily share those. He said, I think where people go wrong is where they put their political identity ahead of their eternal identity. In other words, whether it be a Democrat or a Republican or a whatever, that takes precedent over I am a child of God. That he is my father, my spiritual father, and the other people on this earth are his offspring as well. And to treat people like that, when we start to remember always who we are, that I am a child of God, and so are all these other sojourners on earth with me, then all of a sudden I think we start to treat people differently. And it's not about just what contractually, what's needed here, or how little can I do, but it becomes, what does this sibling of mine need, right? And how can I serve them? And how can I be sure that the way that I treat them makes them want to know Jesus because they know me, right? Is that they sense that, and openly whenever possible, is to share that, hey, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. I'm one of his disciples. And then treat them with integrity to where they recognize that is the source of the goodness that comes from you. As you mentioned, it's not from us, it's from him, and point the glory back to him. And I think when we start to have that kind of perspective on life and the people with whom we get to interact with, everything changes, right? Life gets a lot easier, I think. I think we try and complicate it by dividing ourselves into this group and that group, and and that's natural, right? We have kind of these tribal type tendencies, but at the core, we're not a tribe. We're a family, right? With God as our Father.
That's good, man. That's super good. Tell me about Pro Insight. What is that? What do you guys do?
Yeah, I appreciate it. We've essentially, I have identified that real estate agents are probably some of the best referrers in an entire economy, like an entire market. They give and give and give and give. And oftentimes what we will do is we will take our preferred vendor list and we'll make that a courtesy to the clients that we serve. And that's kind of the apex of what it becomes. I'm giving this group referrals, and all I ask is you take care of my people, which of course they should never be on the list if they don't, right? What we've created is a way to have that list become more than just a courtesy to your clients, but for it to become truly an asset that allows you to take control of your local market. You see, what we've found is that most, and if I've shared this already, I apologize, it feels redundant all of a sudden, is that most professionals who really dominate a market have paid for that privilege. And I'm no disrespect to any business model out there, but you see agents that come in and that pay so much money to Zillow, and they're the biggest, baddest agent out there. And sometimes, and I give that disclaimer because this isn't true of all of them, sometimes they are not the best professional in a community. They're not a 5-star. They might be a 3-star, right? But they're paying for the privilege to be number one, even though their margins they probably wouldn't write home about. Yeah. And so what we believe is the very best professionals in a community are actually those who are able to work by referral. And so what we've built is technology that allows what we believe are the very best professionals, the 5-stars, to have now technology at their back that allows them to take control of the market, for them to be number one or as close to it as they want to be versus, as I mentioned, picking up the crumbs or the scraps. And so in short, what we've created is what's called the homeowner concierge, where a real estate agent gets to go in and identify all of the professionals that he is probably already referring in many regards. Those professionals come into the homeowner concierge and are featured, and he promotes this out to his clients saying, hey, that preferred list you always have wanted and you occasionally call me and ask for it, I'm actually going to put this into your hands, all my clients right now, so that you can proactively reach out to the people that are vetted. Now, here's the catch, is that sometimes that's where it stops. It's like, okay, what you just described, Justin, is a nice courtesy to your clients. But everybody else, all the other professionals that join the homeowner concierge, do the same thing with their clients. So you have an estate attorney, you have a financial advisor, you have an insurance agent. Now, if each of those professionals just had 500 relationships each, which I would say a good relationship-based professional has somewhere in that mix, right? 300 to 500 really great professionals. You have 30 professionals times, let's say 500, that's 15,000 homes that are looking at this technology as the go-to source for the best professionals, the true 5-stars. Not Angie's list, right? But your list. And you couldn't have paid like it would be cost prohibitive for you to put that into the homes of 15,000 people. But collectively, almost as a co-op, everybody put it into the hands of their clients, knowing that they were the exclusive member in their industry. So instead of having to meet and greet for, 2 hours each week to try and extract referrals from each other, we just simply put it into the hands of their clients, right? As this is a preferred group. So what that does is it allows this inbound of homeowners who have a need, and they go there to find the professionals who've been vetted. So it allows for a referral-based business owner to really enjoy as much scale as they want to. And by the way, to also have a business that at some point they could sell. Because if your business is only based on your sphere, right, they're all tied to you because they sit by your church, right? They love you, right? And that's great. But if all of a sudden we've now put this technology in the hands of people who didn't know you, but they trust you because you're featured by someone who they trust, now all of a sudden you actually have a business that can actually be sold, right? That can actually, like, someone else be interested in purchasing it because it's not tied to one person's personal relationships. It's tied to the reputation that you've created amongst a group of other professionals. So it creates both a scalable and a sellable relationship-based business, really allowing those professionals to, again, take control of their market by referral.
So an agent who's interested, do they need to go find these group of professionals and kind of approach you guys as a group? Or is it someone listening like, that sounds amazing, where do I start? Like, what do they do from here?
So we do an interview process with the agent. We only choose one agent per market. So we're pretty careful about what that looks like. Now I say per market, essentially 100,000 person population base or 40,000 homes roughly, right? So it's equivalent of about 40 zip codes, right? Kind of put that into context. Those professionals, right, what they do, I should say it different. Yeah, 40 zip codes. So 10,000 people make up roughly one zip code across the U.S., right? So 100,000 households, I was like double checking my math there, about 10 zip codes. Okay. So that person, right, we start with the right real estate agent. They become the founder, right? At that point, we just simply have them identify who are the relationships that they already know that they are already referring, right? And then we do what's called a launch meeting for them, where we invite those professionals all to see it first. Okay. And we present to them. And then each of those professionals come in and they get to look to see what other professions are open. And collectively, we put together, typically our aim is to get to 30 professionals in 30 days, where we're doing a series of presentations to the network that already exists, right? It's just kind of unspoken. It's undocumented, kind of like who everybody trusts. But we help extract that from everybody and assemble this group to where then we can put that into the technology and put it in the hands of everyone's respective homeowners.
That's super cool. Okay. So an agent who's like, yeah, I want to learn, what do they do? Proinsight.com? What's the best place to send them?
Yeah, perfect. Proinsight.com. There's an opportunity there to actually schedule time for us to see if there's an opportunity for, number one, if there's availability in your area, and number two, if we feel like your business is the right spot and this would be the right fit, right? So that's a great spot. You can also email me, justin@proinsight.com. It's singular insight, proinsight.com. Happy to have a conversation.
Yeah, amazing.
Anyway.
Dude, I love the concept because, the upstream, obviously people talk about referrals all the time. I talk about referrals all the time. But the idea of the upstream partner, right? The uniqueness surrounded by, you've heard well, go find the other business. Where's your B2B? Where's that? Where's this? Yeah. And that's fine. But I haven't heard anybody break it down the way that you said. Is a lot of those are newer businesses, so they don't offer you a lot, right? But also it's more the strategy of understand who your avatar and who you like to serve, and then figure out what professionals actually help them, right? And then that's your upstream partner. So, man, it's just, a lot of tactical wisdom, and I would encourage agents to go check out Pro Insight. I love the concept. I love that it's effectively hands-off, right, after it's built. That's huge, right, because it is about buying back your time without chasing junk leads, and still be able to show up well for your family without sacrificing income. So, man, I think especially if you're an agent listening who's, more of a top producer, maybe you're a team, maybe you're doing 15, 20-plus deals a year, you've got a really good business. Most agents in that position are worried about, how do I do more deals? How do I double my deals without without doubling my time, right? I mean, I hear that question all the time. Well, this would be a great first step to check out something like this, right? So, man, I love it, buddy. I love what you guys are building, and I'm going to be, an advocate for you guys for a long time. So, brother, man, if Pro Insight, is that the best way to reach them? Is there anywhere else you want to send them? Where do they get the book? Like, tell me about any of that.
Yeah. If you want to connect with me on social media, I'd love to stay connected to anybody that's here. I think your audience, I already have a lot in common with, right?
Yeah.
So, you can find me on Instagram is a great way to connect at Justin Stoddart. Again, Stoddart. So yeah, find me there. Would love to connect with you. Love being around people who outwardly profess their belief and faith in Jesus Christ. So please follow me. Would love to have more friends like you, Garrett. So please go follow me. Look forward to connecting with you all.
No one's ever said that before, Justin. So I appreciate that, buddy. Agents, if you're tired of chasing, maybe it's not a work ethic problem. Maybe it's a positioning problem. Referrals aren't random. They are relational, and relationships are built upstream. If you want to build a referral business that doesn't steal from your family, start Upstream. Reach out to Justin. And if you still feel like you're struggling to build structure around your own business, book a breakthrough call with us. My team and I would love to chat. Go to faithfulagent.com, and we will talk to you then. Justin, man, thanks so much for coming on the show. Pleasure. Agents, we love you, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Garrett.